In this part, we're going to rebuild this jukebox step by step, but let me just do a test movie once again to go over what we're creating here. I'm just going from my keyboard. And we have 4 separate buttons. And when we play the buttons, a progress bar appears below with the song playing. And what's really happening is we're importing an external file, and it's placing itself on the stage in that location. So we'll start here. Okay, and you can switch at any time you want. We also have a stop button right here. Okay, and what happens with the stop button is it actually clears the loader window of any content, therefore kicking out any file that was sitting on the stage. So consequently the music stops and the images disappear. Okay, so that's what we're going to build from scratch. I will keep this file around as a reference, but I'm going to close these other song files, and I will start a brand new blank file as well. I have a new folder set up so that I can save all of these files, and you should do the same. Have a folder for this project because you're going to be creating, I guess in total, 10 files, 5 FLA files, and then when you output them, they will be SWF files. Okay, so I will just start with a new file here. And I suggest just keeping it small in size. I'm going with the standard. Click Create. And I will tone down that bright white background here. I'm just going to put in something a little less harsh. And we're going to start with the graphics, and we'll create both of the files, I'll call it the host file and the song file, before we basically apply any code at all. So if you recall in that first file, in part 1, it had 3 layers in it. So I'm just going to create 1 layer for the text elements, 1 layer for my buttons, and 1 layer for my code, which is called actions. Okay, and I'm going to save this file now. Save as. And as I said, I did have a new folder called Jukebox 2. I already have the songs in that folder that you should have downloaded. Okay, and I'm just going to call this one Jukebox. Okay, you could call it a host, I guess. That's kind of what it's working as well. And I click Save. There we go. The file is actually saved now, and I'm going to continue on. And I'll start with the basics, just the graphics. So down in my text layer with my text tool, I'm just going to put a little title here. I'll just call it Jukebox, and I'll keep that as 1 word. And let's just select that. I'm going to double click that to highlight it. For now, I'll make it black because it'll be easier to see, and I'll change the size. Okay, and I'll just keep it at this default Arial bold for now. If I want to change it later, I will. But underneath it, I'm just going to hit my return key here and add a second line, which I will highlight and reduce in size. I'm just going to call it Spider-Man Soundtrack. These are the sound elements we're going to use today, and we are allowed to use them legally in the context of education. Okay, so let me kind of make that smaller, and I might make the word jukebox bigger so they're flush left and right. Okay, and I'm just going by eye here quickly with my scrollers. Okay, and maybe we'll make the word jukebox a different color other than black. A dark blue maybe would look nice on this yellow. There we go. Just drop that in the top corner and save anytime I kind of do anything relevant. Alright, so I'll create the buttons first, I think. And we're only going to create 1 button and duplicate it 3 times, and then put the text in for the buttons once one of those is created. So I'm shifting up to my buttons layer. I'm just going to do a simple round button with my oval tool. And let me pick a slightly different blue than that. And I'll keep the black stroke. And I'll just draw what will be the first button. I'm holding my shift key down, and I guess I'll make it about that big. I will come in and double click it to select it, and I think I will increase the stroke weight as well now that it's selected up to 4. If I click away, I can see what it is. Right? I think, you know what, I'm going to just make that fill color a little bit lighter. Like that. There we go. Okay, so there's my button. Well, it's not a button yet, but it's about to be. So here's my graphic, a circle with a stroke. So I will convert this now to a symbol and make it a button. So make sure I choose buttons. And I'll just call it button. It's going to be the only one in my library. Button. Okay. And having done that, I'm going to hold my Alt key down on the PC, Option key down on the Mac to duplicate that. And hold my Shift key as well once I start to drag. And I'm just going to make 4 of those. Okay, and they're pretty close together, but if I want to be sure that they're evenly spaced, we select them all. So I'm going to select them all here. Up to Modify, Align, Distribute Heights. And that one was just a little out. Okay, again, save. So I have buttons here. I'm just going to create some text elements to accompany those, and maybe, you know what, I'm going to move them up to allow for a nav or a progress bar down here ultimately. Okay, so I'm going to put the text back on the text layer. So I'm going to go back to text. I will select black for my text. And I'll just type in, now if I go out and quickly show you the names of the songs. One's called Spider-Man Drama, Spider-Man Running, Spider-Man Jazzy, and Spider-Man Suspense. I'll just kind of keep that hanging around. So we'll start here. And maybe I'll just use the short form, so drama, and I'm sure I'll have to change the size of this, yes. So let's see, we're bringing it down from 55 to about 32, I guess, for now. I'll go to my move tool and move that. Put it there. Now I'm just going to duplicate that. Again, Alt on the PC, Option on the Mac, click and drag. And I am holding my Shift key down. And the second one was called Running. So these are themes basically. And again, over to my selection tool, duplicate it by clicking the Alt or Option key, dragging it down. And this one, I believe I'm going to cheat here and go out and take a look. It's called Jazzy. I'm just going to call it Jazz. Okay. And one last text element here for this. Again, I'm on the Mac, so I'm holding my Option key down. And there we go. Duplicated it, highlight it. And I think this one's called Suspense. Okay. Once again, I'm going to save that. File, save. And at this point, I guess I could put in what will ultimately be the stop button, but I'm going to create a temporary layer here right now. I'm not even going to bother naming it. But what I want to do is put in that what will ultimately be the progress bar for the song. So I'm choosing the rectangle. And I'm going to use a bright green for the fill, and I will use the black stroke. Again, so I'm just going to draw where the progress bar will be and how big it will be. And let's say that's good for me. I'll double click it to see if I want to edit anything, and I'm actually happy with that large stroke, and the colors are good, as I said. I guess if I want to move it, now's the time. But I think I'll just kind of make it in alignment with those blue buttons there. Okay. And again, if you want to change anything around, just, now's the time. I'm going to move these guys up just a little bit. Okay, so they're a little separate. And I'm just going to put the word stop over top the right-hand side here, but I will put it on the buttons layer. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the buttons layer. Go to my text tool. Type in the word stop. And I guess I'll make it red, more relevant. Red. And I'm going to make it smaller as well. Let's see, maybe go down to 24. There we go. And I'll just move that into place. And I might as well turn that into a button right now too. Modify, convert to symbol. I'll call it stop. Make sure it's set to button. Click OK. All right, again, save. At this point, I'm just going to do some decorative stuff with the buttons. Now, since these are all instances of the one button, I only have to do one change and they'll all change. And this has to do with the mouse over. So I'm double clicking on the button and I'm going to keyframe the overstate. Then select it on the stage and change the color. And I think I'll just change it to a green. Fairly bright green. And I can leave it at that. I think I'll just leave it at that. If you want to put it down color, by all means go ahead. I'm just going to leave it as two color system here. And come back up to scene 1. And highlight the word stop. Or rather, that's a button now, sorry. And double click that. Keyframe the overstate. That would be, shortcut is F6. And if I want to change something, which I'll just change the color of this. Let's see here. Maybe I'll just go much darker in the reds. Like that. Okay. And come back out of the button. Save it. And you know, pretty well my graphics are all done for this. So to save the song file, I'm going to duplicate this file. So I'm going to do a save as right now, and I'll call it song01. All right. Save as. And save it in that same sort of project folder, song01. Okay. Now I'm going to reopen the other file as well again. So I'm just going to go open and reopen the Jukebox file because I have to still do some stuff on that. Okay. So now that I have the song file there, like I said, I'm going to come back to the Jukebox file and just delete the whole layer with the bar. Like that, and save that file. So that's kind of the final version, graphically speaking. Jukebox, yeah, I'll just save it over top of that. Replace. Okay. And let's see, yes, so this is the button. This stays on this level. Even though it seems to be associated with the progress bar, it actually is a button that stays in the host file. Okay, so really with the song, all we're going to have on screen is the green bar. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of everything else, and I can do it by layers, I guess. I can get rid of all of the buttons here by deleting the buttons layer. All of the text by deleting the text layer. And now with this, I actually will create a new empty layer, and I'll separate the fill from the stroke, and the fill will ultimately become animated. So I'll start by naming this layer fill. I'll add a new layer. We'll call it stroke. And then I want to move that black line from one to the other. So I'm going to double click it and cut it. Edit, cut. And then come up to the stroke layer, highlight that, edit, paste in place. Alright, so now if I hide this, you know, it's separate from each other. So that'll stay static, but the fill will become animated. Okay. With the actions layer, let's see here, what do we have? We have nothing in there yet. We'll keep the actions layer, but we're going to make one more layer for the song. So I'm going to click new layer, call it song, and I'll just drag that to the bottom, even though it's going to be invisible. There we go. Alright, so again, I'll save. And it's at this point I might as well introduce one of the songs into the file. So I'm going to import one of the songs. File, import. Import to library, and I'll go into my songs folder here, and I'll grab the first one, click open. So this one's the one for drama. So I'll actually let's see here, you know what, I will create one more layer because I want a text element here. I'll call it title. It'll be like the song title, and I'm just going to put a text element over here on the left side and name it. So this one was called drama, and maybe I'll just change that to white. There we go, and see how that looks on that orange background, and that's fine. I'm just going to put it closer like that and save it. So that's basically all the graphics that we need now for our song file. So if I go into the library, you can see that I have the song. You can preview it with the little preview button up here. All right, so I want to put that song on that layer. I'm just going to span everything out. I'm just going to grab frame 80 and drag down here and span everything out so that it'll be a little easier to see the sound wave when I introduce it. I'm going to hit F5 here. Okay, and I'm going to go down to the first frame in my song layer and come over to my properties and apply that song. Select it from the sound pull down menu. Now what's important here is the sync has to be set to stream so that it can start streaming and we don't have to wait for the whole song to download. And here's how we create it. It's a little grunty. It's just, you know, we've done this before. We've created progress bars. We need to find the end of the song, so I'm going to move my playhead up here and just hold my span key F5 and push it out until I see that audio sound wave turn into a thin line and disappear. Now most of these are relatively short, luckily, so we don't have to go too far. But you have to hold that down until you do find the end. Okay, and I'm at the 12-second mark here now. I think the longest one I have for you guys is 42 seconds. And I can see it thinning out, and we're getting there. Okay, there's the end right there. Okay, again, I'm going to save that. And now I need to animate the fill. Okay, so I'm going to keyframe the last frame. It's going to be a shape tween, so I keyframe the last frame, highlight it, F6, and then come all the way back to frame 1. And I'm just going to right click on that first frame and apply a shape tween. Create shape tween. And stretch that to the far left. So to stretch it to the far left, you do have to hold down your Alt key or your Option key on the Mac and just make that really thin. And that's how you animate it. You can see here when I scrub, it animates. And that noise in the background are my two dogs, so disregard. Now to finish the thought here, I'm just going to put a stop in the last frame on my actions layer. So I'll go to that very last frame here. Keyframe it with an F6 once again. Oh, I hit the wrong key there, sorry. F6, not F5. Alright, and then I'm just going to manually put it in my actions window. STOP, empty brackets, semicolon. And it seemed to automatically put that bracket in, so I'll just get my semicolon at the end. There we go. And save it. Okay, so as far as the song file is concerned, all I have to do for the next ones, and I'll do one more here, I'll do song 2. I'll just go, first I'm going to test it, and by testing it, I'm actually generating my SWF file too, by the way. So that's actually pretty important. So I'm just going to go Control Test. Again, this generates the file we need. Okay, you don't have to play the whole thing, you just have to launch it. Alright, and if I go out, I'll show you. There is the file that I just generated by testing the movie. Okay, so I'm going to do a second song right now. I'm not going to do all 4. I'll just do 2 for you here in the demonstration to save time. So I'll duplicate that song, or rather that file, sorry. I'll do a save as, song 02. Okay, and I'll make some changes. I'll import the new song to start with. Import to library, and it's the second one called Running. Okay, and there it is right there. Okay, and I think that's a shorter one, so we'll probably have to shrink our timeline, but let's just go in here and change the different elements that change, such as the title, Running. Okay, and of course the song itself in the layer. I'm just going to highlight that first frame and go to Properties and switch it out for the second song, like that. and then go to the end and see if it needs to be stretched or shrunk. And you can see that it's actually much smaller. So one way we can shrink things is if I put my playhead just after where I want it to end, I can hold my shift key down and hold F5. And you're not going to see anything right away, but you'll see it progress. You can actually see my progress bar changing. What's happening is I'm deleting all the frames. There you go. Now you can see what's happening. And just stop it right about there. Okay. If I want to push it out, same thing. Put your playhead not on the last frame, or you'll be pushing the keyframe, but before the last keyframe. And if I want to push it out, it's F5 like that. If I want to pull it back, it's Shift F5 like that. But be careful you don't delete that last keyframe. It'll mess up your animation and it'll mess up your code. So it's probably prudent to put it, quite a bit farther back from that last frame. And Shift F5 like that. And you can click it instead if it goes too fast, like that. Okay? And that's song 2. Let me just save that. And to generate my SWF file, I'm going to do a test movie. So once you get the first song done, the other 3 are pretty easy, pretty quick. Okay. And again, if I go out to my desktop here, you see there's the second song I created. Okay. So I'm going to keep it at 2 songs for the sake of the duration of this demo and come back to the jukebox now. Okay. So I need to give all of my 5 buttons an instance name before I can do anything here. So I'm just going to select them all and go through and instance name them. So I'm just going to call it the BUT01. Actually, you know what? I'll call it song01 underscore BTN. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to copy that and just paste it into the next instance name and change the number. So this will be song02 underscore BTN. Hit my enter key. Highlight the 3rd button down. Paste that in. Change the name a little bit. Song03. Hit my enter key and the 4th button down. Paste in that name. Song04 underscore BTN. And then I'll do this last one. The stop button. And I'll just replace song01 with stop. STOP, there we go. Hit my enter button and save. Okay, we're getting ready to add some code here soon. Save. Okay, so let's open our actions panel. And I will start by manually putting in some code. So I want to declare, again, that what I call a magic window, the loader. So it's starts by declaring it as a variable, so it's a var space, and I will attribute the name loader, lowercase, and I'll put the type, the variable type, so that it's a colon, and loader is actually a type, but it's capital L, and you'll see it change blue if you did it right. And I want to declare a new class with that. It's called new, and again, loader type, new loader, and then empty brackets. And I guess you just have to go on faith for that one at this point, and semicolon. Okay, so what I want to do now though is add this loader to the screen, to the stage. So on the next line, this command add child does just that. So add child, and then in brackets, I will put in the name of the variable, which is the loader, and this puts it on the stage. Okay, so semicolon at the end of that. So that creates the window, and this places the window on the stage. Okay, I'm just going to come down a couple of lines here and do a save. And now I'll start to apply my buttons to actually do the loading. Okay, so I'm going to collapse this here. And we will use our code snippets. So I'm going to select that first button, which we've already named. And I'm going to start by declaring stop all sounds, because what that's going to do is it's actually going to automatically attribute a click event, so a mouse click event, and it's going to stop any current sound. And then we're going to add to that again with some manual code. So I'm going to start that way. Click stop to click all sounds. Okay. And I am going to just delete this comment to clean up my code view. So what I want to do is I want to manually add inside of the function. So there's the button. There's the click reference. It creates a function, and inside of that function it has one line of code that says stop all current sounds. So I'm going to create a new line of code, and this is where we actually load the loader. So I'm going to say loader dot load, referring to the variable, and then in brackets we add new and then space uppercase URL request, all uppercase up to the R, and then request. And if I do this right, it'll turn blue. And then I make another set of brackets inside of there, and I actually put the name of the file. It's the pathway, but since these files have been saved in the same folder, the pathway is just the name. We do have to surround the pathway with quote marks. There's my quote marks, and the name of the file is called song01.swf. And this should load up the first song. Let me save that, and I'll just go outside to my Finder for a second and show you. So here is the file that we've called to be brought in. Okay, so I'm going to come back to animate here, and I can test this now. So I'm just going to go to Control, Test, and here we go. And there it loads. Now there's nothing else I can do with it because I haven't done any of the other buttons nor the stop. But that proves the concept. So what it just did was it actually imported that external file, and because they're both the exact same size, it synchronized perfectly as far as the alignment goes. Okay, so let's just do the other 3 buttons here. So highlight, that's the next one, code snippets, click to stop all sounds. And again, I will, at this point I can copy this code since it works. Copy, and then come down here and paste. And all I have to do is change the name of the file I want to call up. So the second one is called song02.swf. So I might as well go do all 4 of these buttons. They're pretty quick. So I'll highlight the third one down. Code snippets, click to stop all sounds. Okay, and add that one line of code that I originally hand coded. Change the name of the song or the file rather, song03, and then just come down here and do the last one. Select that last 4th button. We still have to do the stop as well, but it's a little different in code. Code snippets, click to stop all sounds. Again, we'll add that one line of code with my paste, and I'll change the reference name, song04. Okay. Save that, and we will address the stop at this point. And if that works, then we're actually done. Stop. Code snippets. I'll use the same stop all sounds. And then on the line below, it's a little different. So I'll just type it in here. Loader. Again, referring to the variable. Loader dot unload, and that's the trick. Empty brackets and a semicolon. Okay, so unload will throw out anything that's sitting in the loader. So in other words, it'll empty the invisible magic window again. So I'm just going to save that. And I don't know if you can hear my dog ticky-tocking around me here. Okay, so we'll do one more test movie here. And it looks like we're good to go. Again, imports the external file, which happens to have the music playing in the progress bar. Kick it out expressly with the stop button, but by clicking another button it also kicks it out and replaces it. Okay, so there you have it, a simple jukebox, but really the objective today was to learn how to load external files. Okay, so I'd like you to build one of those for today's assignment. There we go.